We went into the cathedral to prove their ritual was just empty symbols. But that night, the symbols we mocked began to chase me. And I have to ask you, what would you do if the God you insulted refused to let you go? The stone floor of the cathedral was cold through my jeans as we sat in the back row. The air smelled like old books and the sweet smoke. Stained glass windows painted colored light on the people in front of us. It was a Tuesday morning, 10:17 a.m. I remember because I checked my watch thinking of door prayer later. My name is Karim. I was 24 years old. And sure, I knew everything about God. I was here with 4 brothers from the University Islamic Society. We were on a mission. Our leader Bilal said we needed to see the Catholic Mass with our own eyes. He said to understand their error, we had to witness it. He was a tall man with a sharp beard and calm eyes. He spoke about defending Tawheed, the oneness of God. To me, this was a brave thing. We were soldiers of truth. The Mass started with people standing and singing. The priest, an old man in long robes, spoke words I didn't really hear. I was too busy looking around. I saw statues and candles. My heart felt hard. I thought, this is all wrong. This is shirk. They are giving God partners. The central part came. The priest held up a round white wafer. He said strong words. This is my body. He held up a golden cup. This is my blood. The people were so quiet. They believed this. They really believed the bread became God. A deep feeling of being right filled my chest. I knew the Quran was clear. God does not become bread. He does not have a son. This was a story, a mistake. I leaned to Bilal next to me. I whispered a verse from the Quran. They have taken their rabbis and monks as lords besides God. Bilal nodded slowly, his face serious. He didn't smile. Then the people went up to get the bread. They knelt. They put out their tongues. I watched an old woman with shaking hands. She looked so peaceful. For a second, I felt a prick of doubt. What if she feels something real? But I pushed it away. That was deception. That was emotion, not truth. Truth was my prayer 5 times a day. Truth was the Quran in perfect Arabic. Truth was a God so big and alone, he would never fit on a tongue. The Mass ended. People started to talk and walk out. Bilal looked at us. He gave a small nod. This was our time. We stood up. We did not go to a corner. We walked into the big open space in the middle of the cathedral. Right in front of the empty altar, we unrolled our small prayer rugs on the cold stone. The few people left stopped and stared. An altar server, a boy in a white robe, froze where he was. We began our door prayer. I washed my face and hands from a small bottle of water. I stood facing Mecca. I raised my hands. Allahu Akbar, I said. God is greatest. My voice echoed a little in the big space. As I bowed, I saw the boy's feet from under my arm. He wasn't moving. As I put my forehead to the ground, I felt powerful. I was showing them, this is real prayer. No bread, no wine, no middleman. Just me and the Creator. The prostration felt extra good that day. I was proving something. We finished the prayer. We sat on our mats for a moment of quiet. The cathedral was silent now. Everyone had left or was hiding. We stood up and rolled our mats. Bilal led us out. The big wooden door closed behind us with a heavy thud. The London sunlight was bright after the dim church. We blinked. Then something changed. The holy feeling broke. One of the brothers, Jamal, let out a laugh. It was a nervous sound. Did you see that old man's face? He said. He dropped his book. Idris, another brother, smirked. He held his hands like the priest. He made his voice low and shaky. This is my body. Tasty. They all laughed. I felt a smile on my own face. The tension of the morning came out as a joke. The real presence, I said, shaking my head. The only real presence is Allah, alone, without partner. We walked back to campus, our steps light. We joked more. We mocked the kneeling, the singing, the wine. We felt clever and strong. We had gone into the heart of their error and come out clean. I went to my small room that afternoon. I felt good. I called my father in Lahore. I told him we did dawah today. I said we showed the truth of Islam in a church. His voice was proud on the phone. Allah is pleased with those who make His word supreme, he said. I prayed my Asr prayer on time. I read my Quran. Everything was normal. Everything was perfect. But that night, as I slept, the dream came. I was back in the cathedral, but it was empty and dark. The only light was a single candle near the altar. I walked toward it. On the altar was one of the white wafers. It sat on a gold plate. I heard the priest's voice echo, "This is my body." I reached out my hand. I wanted to pick it up and crush it, to show it was just bread, but my hand wouldn't move. Then, the wafer began to glow with a soft white light. It wasn't a scary light, it was warm. It felt like looking at the sun through your closed eyelids. A feeling came from it. It was a feeling of being known. It was a feeling of being loved, but also of being seen. All of me, my pride in the church, my jokes on the sidewalk, my certain heart. It saw all of it, and it still loved. The love was so strong it felt like a pain in my chest. I woke up with a gasp. My room was dark. My heart was beating so fast I sat up. I could still feel that love in the air, like a smell after rain. I was shaking. I touched my face. It was wet. I was crying. I had not cried since I was a small boy. I didn't understand. Why was I crying? It was just a dream. It was just bread. I said the Shahada, "There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger." The words felt dry in my mouth. I tried to go back to sleep, but I was afraid to close my eyes. I stayed awake until the first light of dawn. I performed my Fajr prayer, but my mind was not on the words. I kept seeing that soft white light. I kept feeling that painful love. It was a love that asked for nothing. It was just there. It was so different from the love I knew. My father's love was for a good son. God's love in Islam was for the obedient servant. This was different. This love was for me, Karim. Even when I was mocking, the thought scared me more than anything. I got dressed for my classes. I looked in the mirror. My eyes looked tired. I met the brothers for coffee at 10 a.m. They were all talking about yesterday. They were still laughing. "We should do it again," Jamal said. "Maybe at a bigger church." I sipped my coffee. I didn't laugh. I didn't say anything. Bilal looked at me. "Are you okay, Karim? You are quiet." I forced a smile. "I'm fine, just tired." But I wasn't fine. The dream was stuck in my mind. That whole day I felt strange. I went to my history lecture. The professor talked about ancient Rome, but my mind was in that dark cathedral. I saw the glowing wafer. I felt the love. It was a quiet feeling, but it was heavy. It sat in my stomach like a stone. After class, I walked past the same cathedral. I stopped outside. I looked at the big door. I thought about going in, just to look, just to see if it felt the same. But I didn't. I was too scared. What if I went in and felt that love again? What would that mean? It would mean my whole life was wrong. It would mean my father was wrong. It would mean the Quran was, I couldn't even think it. I turned and walked away fast. That night the dream came again. It was the same. The dark space, the single candle, the wafer glowing, the feeling of being known and loved. But this time I heard words, not out loud, inside my heart. The words were, "I am here." Just that. I am here. I woke up crying again. This was not a normal dream. It was too real. It happened the same way. It left the same feeling. For 7 nights the dream came. Every single night. I began to be afraid to sleep. I drank a strong coffee. I watched movies all night. But when my eyes closed, even for a minute, I was back there. The glow, the love, the words, "I am here." I was falling apart. I stopped going to classes. I stopped meeting the brothers. I didn't pray my prayers on time. When I tried to pray, the Arabic words felt empty. The rituals felt like I was just moving my body. There was no connection. The God I was praying to felt far away. The God in my dream felt close, too close. 1 week after the cathedral, I was a ghost. I hadn't changed my clothes. I hadn't shaved. I sat in my dark room. I was so tired. I was so confused. Who was in my dream? It couldn't be Allah. Allah does not become bread. Allah does not speak in dreams like this. But the feeling was of God. It was holy. It was other. It was more real than the floor under my feet. I had to know. I had to make it a stop. I decided to go back. I had to go into the cathedral in the daytime. I had to see the altar in the light. I had to prove it was just stone and wood. Then maybe the dreams would end. I put on a clean shirt. I walked into the cathedral. My hands were cold. It was 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, the same time as last week. I pushed the heavy door open. I stepped inside. Have you ever been so sure you were right, only to have your own heart turn against you in the silence of the night? The cathedral air washed over me, the same smell of old stone and wax. Sunlight streamed through the high windows, making the dust look like gold. It was not dark and quiet like in my dreams. A few people sat in pews, heads bowed. A woman was lighting a candle. It was normal. It was just a building. My heart slowed down. See, I told myself, it is just a place. The dreams are just the stress. I walked slowly down the center aisle. My shoes tapped on the stone. I looked at the altar. It was just a big table with a cloth. No single candle. No glowing wafer. I felt a little better. I slid into a pew about halfway up. I sat down. I just watched. I wanted to see what these people saw. I wanted to understand the ritual that started all this. After a few minutes, a side door opened. An old priest came out. It was the same one from last week. He moved slowly. He was carrying a small plain box. He went to the altar. He opened the box. Inside were many of the small white wafers. He began to clean the gold plates from the mass. He wiped each one with a cloth. He was very careful. He was not in a hurry. He treated those plates like they were precious. To me, they were just dishes. To him, they held God. I watched his face. He was not smiling. He was serious. But his face was peaceful. It was the same peace I saw on the old woman's face last week. It was a peace I did not have. My peace came from being right. His peace seemed to come from somewhere else. He finished cleaning. He closed the box, but he did not leave. He knelt down on the hard floor right in front of the altar. He bowed his head. He was praying. He stayed there for a long time. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. He was so still. I couldn't stop watching him. What was he praying to? A piece of bread? That made no sense. But he was not a stupid man. He was educated. He had studied. He believed this with his whole heart. Why? The question burned in my mind. My Islam was about law and submission. It was about boundaries and rules. This was about love. The word from my dream came back. Love. The priest finally stood up. He walked to the side of the altar. There was a small golden box on the wall. It had a little door. He opened it. Inside, I could see a white light. It was just a light bulb. But in that box, they kept the leftover wafers. They believed Jesus was in there, really present. The priest bowed to the box. Then he left. I was alone in the quiet. The few other people had gone. I stood up. I walked closer to the altar. I looked at the golden box, the tabernacle. I remembered its name from my studies. I stood about 10 feet away. I just looked at it. I didn't feel anything. No glow, no love. It was just a box. I felt a strange disappointment. Maybe the dreams were just dreams. Maybe I was going crazy from stress. I turned to leave. Then it happened. Not a dream. Wide awake. A feeling came over me. It started in my chest. It was a warmth. It spread down my arms and up my neck. It was the same feeling from the dream. The knowing. The love. But it was stronger now. It was not soft. It was a wave. It knocked the breath from my lungs. I couldn't move. I stared at the golden box, my eyes filled with tears. I didn't cry. The tears just came. They streamed down my face. And then inside my mind, clear as my own voice, came words. Karim. It said my name. Just my name. Karim. The voice was not loud. It was gentle. But it had all the power in the world. It was the voice from the dream. I am here. In that moment, I knew. I knew with a certainty deeper than all my years of Quran study. I was not alone in this building. Someone was in that box, not a symbol, not a memory, a person. The person who made the universe was waiting in a small golden box on a wall, and he knew my name. He had called me. The God of Islam is never in a box. He is beyond place. This was wrong. This was shirk. My brain screamed the facts. But my heart was on fire with the truth that was bigger than facts. The love that held me in that moment forgave me for my mocking. It forgave me before I even asked. It just loved me. Kareem, the mocker. It was too much. I fell to my knees. I didn't mean to. My legs gave way. I knelt on the stone floor crying silently. I put my face in my hands. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. For 24 years I had prayed to Allah. I had never once felt Him this close. I had never heard my name. I stayed there for a long time. The tears finally stopped. The feeling of love stayed, like a warm blanket around my shoulders. I stood up. My legs were shaky. I looked at the tabernacle one more time. I didn't understand any of it. How could God be man? How could He be bread? It made no sense, but I could not deny what just happened. I had been called by name. I walked out of the cathedral. The world outside looked different. The colors were brighter. The sounds were clearer. I felt like I was born new, but I also felt terror. What did this mean? I walked back to my room in a daze. I sat on my bed. My mind was racing. I had to think. I had to study. I had to know who this person in the box was. I opened my laptop. My fingers trembled. I typed Jesus Eucharist Real Presence into the search bar. I spent the next 6 hours reading. I read Catholic websites. I read early Christian writings from long before Islam. I read about the Last Supper. I read the words of Jesus in the Bible. This is my body, given for you. I had read these words before as a scholar to criticize them. Now I read them as a man who had just met the speaker. They felt alive. They felt true. I learned the word transubstantiation. It meant the bread changes into Jesus, body, blood, soul, and divinity. My logic fought it. It is impossible. But my heart whispered, I am here. I read the Bible verses for the first time in my life, not to find faults, but to find Him. I read John chapter 6. Jesus said, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no life in you. Many followers left Him that day. It was a hard teaching. I understood why. I wanted to leave too. It was too strange. But where could I go? He had my name. I read until my eyes hurt. The sun went down. My room was dark except for the laptop screen. I had a choice. I could close the laptop. I could call my father. I could ask for prayer. I could blame this on stress or evil spirits. I could go back to my old life, or I could follow this love, even if it led me off a cliff. I thought about the priest's peaceful face. I thought about the feeling that forgave my mockery. I thought about my name spoken in the silence. At that moment, my phone buzzed. It was Bilal. The text said, brother, we haven't seen you. Are you sick? We are meeting for Isha prayer at the mosque. Come and be with your family. Family. My family was in Lahore. My family was the brothers at the mosque. If I chose this, I would lose them. I knew it. I would lose everything. My chest felt tight. I looked at the cross on the screen of the website I was reading. It was just 2 lines, but I knew what it meant. It meant God had died for me while I was mocking Him. The love behind that idea was too big to hold. I started crying again. I didn't text Bilal back. I closed my eyes. I didn't know how to pray to Jesus. I didn't know the right words, so I just spoke from my broken heart. I whispered into the dark room, Jesus, I don't understand. It's all crazy, but you are here. You called me. If you are real, show me what to do. I am lost. No voice answered. No wave of feeling came, but a deep, quiet peace settled in my heart. The storm inside me calmed. I knew what I had to do. I had to go back. I had to go to Mass, not to mock, but to see, to receive. The thought terrified me. That was the line. If I did that, there was no going back. Have you ever heard your name called in the silence? By a love that knows every wrong thing you've ever done and calls you anyway? The next morning was Sunday. I woke up early. I had not slept much, but I wasn't tired. The quiet peace was still inside me. I took a shower. I put on my best clothes. I didn't know what you wore to a Catholic Mass to receive. I just knew I had to go. I walked to the cathedral. My heart was a drum in my chest. It was 9:30 a.m. The Sunday Mass was at 10. The church was already full of people. I stood at the back near the door. I wanted to run. Every part of my Muslim mind was shouting, "This is the worst sin. You are walking into idolatry. You will burn in hell forever." But the memory of the love was stronger. The memory of my name. The service started. I didn't know when to sit or stand or kneel. I copied the people around me. I felt like a spy in enemy land. But I wasn't an enemy anymore. I was a hungry man. I listened to the readings. They were from the Bible. They spoke about God's mercy. They spoke about a father running to welcome his lost son home. The words cut my heart. I was the lost son. The priest gave a homily. He talked about how God's love is a free gift. We don't earn it. We just have to say yes. My whole life I had earned God's pleasure, prayer, fasting, Quran, good deeds. It was all a list. This was different. This was a gift. Then came the time I was waiting for. The priest held up the bread and wine. He said the same words. "This is my body. This is my blood." This time I didn't feel pity. I felt awe. I believed him. I believed Jesus was becoming present on that altar. My hands were cold and sweaty. The people lined up to go forward. I watched them. They bowed. They said Amen. They received the wafer on their tongue or in their hand. They returned to their seats with bowed heads. My turn came. I walked out of my pew. My legs felt like wood. I walked slowly down the aisle. The line moved forward. I was getting closer. I could see the priest's face. He was an old man with kind eyes. He didn't know me. He didn't know I had mocked this very moment 1 week ago. He didn't know I was a Muslim. He just saw a young man coming forward. I was 2 people away, 1 person away. My heart was beating so loud I was sure everyone could hear it. Then I was there. I stood in front of the priest. He held up the small white host. He looked at me. He said, "The body of Christ." I didn't know what to say. I remember the people said, "Amen." I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. I just nodded. I stuck out my tongue like I had seen others do. My hand was shaking. I was so afraid I would do it wrong. The priest gently placed the wafer on my tongue. It was just a piece of bread, thin, light, almost nothing. I closed my mouth. I turned and walked back to my seat. I knelt down. I waited. For a second there was nothing, just the taste of plain bread. Then it happened. It started as a warmth in my whole body. It was the feeling from the cathedral and the dream, but now it was inside me, literally inside me. The love was not around me now. It was in my blood. It was in my bones. It filled every empty space in my heart. I saw no visions. I heard no voices. But I knew, with a knowledge beyond knowing, that I was not alone. Jesus was inside me. The God of the universe was living in Karim, the former mocker. The weight of my mockery came back to me. I saw myself laughing on the sidewalk. I saw my proud prayer in the aisle. I felt so sorry. A deep sorrow washed over me. But at the same time, a stronger feeling washed the sorrow away. It was forgiveness. It was joy. It was like coming home after a very long, cold journey. I put my face in my hands and wept. I cried for a long time. The people around me probably thought I was strange. I didn't care. I had never been so happy in my life. When the mass ended, I stayed in my seat. I couldn't move. I just wanted to stay in that feeling. An old lady touched my shoulder as she walked by. She smiled. She didn't say anything. Her smile said she understood. Finally, I stood up. I walked out into the sunlight. The world was new. I felt clean. I felt free. But I also knew a storm was coming. I had just committed the one sin my faith said Allah would never forgive. I had given him a partner. I had eaten what I believed was a God. There was no going back. I went to my room. I looked at my Quran on the shelf. I looked at my prayer rug in the corner. They were part of a different life, a life that felt far away now. I knew what I had to do next. I had to tell Bilal, I had to tell my brothers. I had to tell my family. The thought made me sick. I didn't want to lose them, but I couldn't lie. I couldn't hide this light. I texted Bilal, "Brother, we need to talk. Can we meet today?" He texted back right away. Of course, my flat, 4 p.m. The hours until 4 o'clock were long. I prayed, but now I prayed to Jesus. I didn't know the words, so I just talked. I asked for strength. I asked for the right words. At 3:45, I walked to Bilal's flat. Each step felt heavy. Bilal opened the door. He smiled. "Karim, we have missed you." He led me to his sitting room. 2 other brothers from the cathedral day were there, Jamal and Idris. They smiled and greeted me. They looked happy to see me. My stomach hurt. We drank tea. We talked about small things. Then Bilal asked, "So brother, what did you want to talk about? Are you okay? You have been away." I put my tea down. My hand was shaking. I took a deep breath. I looked at their faces, my friends. "Brothers," I said. My voice was shaky. "I have something to say. It will be hard for you to hear. Last week after we went to the cathedral, something happened to me. I told them everything. The dreams, going back alone, the feeling, hearing my name, the reading, the Mass today. I told them I now believed Jesus is God. I told them I received the Eucharist. I said it slowly. I tried to explain the love. When I finished, the room was silent. The smiles were gone. Jamal's mouth was open. Idris stared at the floor. Bilal's face was like stone. He looked at me for a long time. His eyes were sad and angry. "Karim," he said softly, "you are having a breakdown. The stress of our dawah, maybe, or the evil ones are deceiving you. These feelings are whispers from Shaitan." I shook my head. "No, Bilal, it is not Shaitan. I know the difference. This is light. This is peace." "Peace!" Jamal burst out. "You have left the truth. You have committed shirk. There is no peace in that." His face was red. Idris looked up. "Karim, brother, you must repent. Right now. Say the Shahada. Come back to Islam. Allah is most merciful." I felt tears in my eyes. "I have found mercy," I said. "But not the way you think." Bilal stood up. His voice became cold. "If you do not repent, you are no longer our brother. You are an apostate. You know what that means. You must leave." The words felt like a knife. I stood up. I looked at them one last time. "I am sorry," I said. "I love you all, but I have found the truth. His name is Jesus." I turned and walked to the door. No one stopped me. As I closed the door, I heard Bilal say, "May Allah guide him back or curse him." I walked home in a daze. The next call was harder. I called my father in Lahore. It was late there. He answered, his voice sleepy. "Karim, is everything all right?" "Baba," I said, and my voice broke. "I have to tell you something. I have become a Christian." The silence on the phone was the worst sound I have ever heard. It lasted maybe 10 seconds. Then he spoke. His voice was quiet and deadly cold. "You have killed your mother. You have killed me. You are dead to us. Do not ever call this number again. You are not my son." The line went dead. I held the phone to my ear, listening to the empty silence. I sat on the floor and cried until I had no tears left. I had lost everything in one day. What would you choose if finding the truth meant losing everyone who ever loved you? The days after that were dark. I was alone in a city of millions. My friends were gone. My family was gone. My community was gone. I was an apostate. I knew the teachings. In Islam, my life could be taken. I didn't think my friends would hurt me, but I was afraid. I stopped going out as much. I left my university course. I couldn't focus. All I had was my new faith. It was like a small, weak flame in a huge, cold wind. I started going to Mass every day. It was the only place I felt safe, the only place I felt loved. I didn't talk to anyone at first. I just went, received the Eucharist, and left. That little piece of bread was my only food for my soul. One day after Mass, the old priest saw me sitting alone. He walked over. He sat next to me. "I see you here every day, son," he said. His voice was kind. "My name is Father John." I was scared to talk, but his eyes were gentle. "My name is Karim," I said. I am new." "Welcome home, Karim," he said. He didn't ask any hard questions. He just said, "If you ever need to talk, my door is open." A few weeks later, I did need to talk. I was so lonely. I was so scared about money and my future. I went to see Father John in his office. I told him my whole story. I told him about the mocking prayer, the dreams, hearing my name, losing my family. He listened for a long time. He didn't seem shocked. When I finished, he had tears in his eyes. "Karim," he said, "that is a beautiful testimony. Jesus pursued you with such love. You are a gift to this church." He helped me. He connected me with a group in the parish for new Catholics. They were my new family. They were old ladies and young students and families. They didn't see me as an apostate. They saw me as a brother found. They helped me find a small job. They helped me find a new place to live when I had to move. Slowly, the wound in my heart began to heal. It was not fast. I missed my mother every day. I had nightmares about my father's angry face, but the peace of the Eucharist was stronger. 1 year after my conversion, I was baptized. It was at the Easter Vigil. I took a Christian name, John, after the priest who helped me. My new Christian family filled the church. I had no blood family there, but I had more family than I ever knew. As the water poured over my head, I felt clean. I felt new. All my old life was washed away. I was John now. After my baptism, I felt a new call. I wanted to help others like me. I started to share my story online. I wrote about my journey from Islam to Jesus. I was careful. I didn't want to attack Islam. I just wanted to talk about the love that found me. Many Muslims wrote to me in secret. They were curious. They were searching. Some were having dreams too. I talked with them. I prayed for them. I led some of them to Jesus. That became my new purpose. My old purpose was to defend a religion. My new purpose was to share a person. His name is Jesus. 5 years have passed now. I am 29 years old. I am married to a wonderful Christian woman named Mary. We have a baby girl. We named her Grace, because my whole life is because of God's grace. I work now as a counselor. I help other Muslims who are finding Jesus. I help them through the hard times of losing their families. I understand their pain. Sometimes I think about my father. I pray for him every day. I still love him. I still miss him. I have written him letters. He has never replied, but I have not given up hope. Jesus never gives up on anyone. Last month, I went back to the cathedral. I stood in the exact spot where I unrolled my prayer mat to mock. This time, I was holding my daughter Grace. I looked at the altar. I remembered the dreams. I remembered the voice. I whispered, "Thank you. I am not the same man who walked in here 5 years ago." That man was proud and sure and empty inside. This man is humble and loved and full of joy. I lost everything the world says matters. But I found the one thing that matters forever. If you knew that a love like this was waiting for you, a love that knows your name and calls you through the darkness, would you have the courage to answer no matter the cost?